I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and today we're going to do my August TBR. So, first off, with my TBR, I usually do a little D20 dice game where I roll a whole bunch of 20-sided dice, and the rolls that I get will determine the prompts that I have to read from a long list of prompts that I have in the description, as always. So I'm first going to show you the rolls that I get, including the 4-sided dice that I get to roll every time that I roll 6 20-sided dice. With this 4-sided dice, I get to change one of the prompts if I want by that value, and then you get to see what it is I'm going to be reading. I've got a 15, a 6, a 5, an 8, a 3, and a 19. Now I'm looking over my Excel list, and I'm going to pick up my D4 and see what I get. And that is a 2. And we are back from rolling. So, to begin with, I ended up moving one of my dice rolls and I got a 1, which is strange because usually these dice prompts start off with the lower numbers being worse prompts because this is an intimidating read. Normally I wouldn't want an intimidating read, but I do have a book I have to read this month that fits perfectly with this prompt, and that is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I'm reading Jade Legacy to finish off the Bone-along Greenbone Saga read-along that we were doing at the Fantasy Series Book Club this month. We're going to be doing our live show discussion of Jade Legacy on, I believe, August 21st, which is a Sunday. So definitely tune in for that. And we're actually also going to be doing a very special type of live show a week later on August 28th. So if you want to join us and read some books along with us or see what the whole secret stuff is, definitely join the Discord because we'll be talking about some more stuff there. I'm sure we'll be promoting it all over the place. But the Greenbone Saga follows this family of basically gangsters. It's very similar to Hong Kong gangster movies, and we have this family that is able to harness the power of Jade, which gives you basically superhuman abilities, but there is a war that's breaking out between the clans, and a lot of drama ensues. The next roll that I got was a 3, which is a TBR veteran. Now, I have this book that I was supposed to read a long time ago, and that is The Wild Ones. I was supposed to read this for Noelle's book club and finish it, like, a long time ago, and I didn't. I did read about half of it, but we had to do our live show discussion, and I just didn't finish the book in time. Also, I'm looking at myself in the, thing. I'm looking a lot like Jurgen von Strangle right now. Anyway, so this is the book that I'm going to be reading for my TBR veteran prompt. This is about a whole bunch of different women who are able to kind of escape their trauma and kind of become these fantastical beings that are able to just escape from the place that they are where they're going through something so painful, but they realize that the person who allowed them to be able to do this and gain and harness this power is now in danger, so they have to go and help. There's a lot of stuff in here about trauma and handling it and supporting one another, so this is definitely a very cool found family situation, and I remember absolutely loving a lot of what I've already read of this book, so I'm very excited to finish it. The next prompt that I got was spin the bottle. I spun a bottle around and I saw what I ended up getting. This was a very, very, very long spin for some reason, but the book that the bottle ended up landing on was Persepolis. This is volume 1 of Persepolis. This is a graphic novel memoir by a young Iranian girl, well, she's not young anymore, she is an adult now, but this is about her life living in Iran and about the Cultural Revolution and a lot of the different events that happen there and how there's so much that's really stigmatized, and so many people have praised this book and said that it almost defines its own genre. Next thing I got was a 6, which is a mood read, so I'm not going to be picking a book for this because I'm going to be reading whatever suits my mood at the given time. I have a lot of things that I have on this TBR in general for other prompts that will be coming up after this little TBR game, so I'm sure this mood read will involve some of that stuff. Next thing that I got was an 8, which is my own TBR, and I ended up picking The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your House, which I recently acquired while I was out with friends in New York City, and I picked this up. This is the 3rd book in the Welcome to Night Vale series. I read Welcome to Night Vale, the first book, I think last month, pretty recently, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to dive into this. I've always known that this existed in like general concept, but seeing it at Housing Works in New York, I was like, oh, and just grabbed it, and I got it used. It's a very beautiful copy. It's in like perfect condition, and I'm so excited to dive into this. If you don't know what Welcome to Night Vale is, God, listen to the podcast. It is fantastic. It is a very weird desert community that lives out of the middle of nowhere, and it's like they're basically right on top of Area 51, so they have all of the most bizarre happenings. They have monsters, they have aliens, they have creatures, and it's just like this strange veiled government agency that keeps people from like doing things, but it's not even really treated as like a sinister thing. It's more like an ironic, satirical take on the world. It's very queer. It's very, very good. I love it so much. I grew up with the podcast and I adore it. So I'm very excited to finally like read the third installment in the series of the books, because these are the story books, and then there are also the like written out podcast form books, which I've also acquired, obviously. I'm a big fan. The last thing I got from my TBR game was getting Sasha to pick a book for me. I got her to pick a book finally by laying some treats out, and the book that she ended up choosing for me was Witch Hat Atelier. I hope I'm saying that right. I got the first 5 volumes of this manga series out from the library, and it seems cool. It's about a young girl who's always wanted to be a witch, and she just doesn't have witch powers. But I assume that she acquires witch powers at some point. And I've just seen so many people that praise the artwork, praise the story, and there's like fan accounts and stuff that's dedicated to this whole series, so I think it's going to be a pretty good one. Okay, now we get to move on to the Studio Ghibli readathon, which I am hosting this month. I have a readathon announcement video that I put out a little while ago. If you're just seeing this now and you're like, Studio Ghibli readathon, you can still join us, because it's a very like do whatever you want type of readathon. There are no points or anything like that, but there's a bunch of prompts for different movies. We're streaming the movies throughout the month. We're doing reading sprints on everyone's channels, and we're just here to have a good time. So definitely join us if you can. And I am going to be, in foolish efforts, trying to attempt a lot of the different prompts here. I have basically a book for almost every single prompt, but I'm definitely doubling up, because there is no way that I can... Current Rachel is a different from 2021 Rachel. 2021 Rachel was on a whole different game. 2022 Rachel is barely holding on by a thread. So I have a lot of the different prompts for this year, and I'm going to be trying to complete as many of them as I possibly can to get a blackout on the bingo board. There is no reason that I have to do this. I am doing this to myself. I am pressuring myself, but I'm going to try. For Princess Mononoke, there are 3 movie prompts. They are an enemies to lovers book, a book that features nature, and a book that has a myth retelling nature. Oh, for the enemies to lovers prompt, I'm not sure, but I think Spy Family might work for that. The featuring nature prompt, I think The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea may work with that. She's literally falling beneath the sea. The sea is nature, right? And then also that is kind of a myth retelling. On top of that, I also have the Winer's Book Club book for the month of August, which is Nettle and Bone. Mara never wanted to be a hero. As the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, she escaped the traditional fate of princesses to be married away for the sake of an uncaring throne. But her sister wasn't so fortunate. After years of silence, Mara is done watching her suffer at the hands of a powerful and abusive prince. Seeking help for her rescue mission, Mara is offered the tools she needs, but only if she can complete 3 seemingly impossible tasks. Oh, I love this already. Build a dog of bones, sew a cloak of nettles, and capture moonlight in a jar. But as is the way in fairy tales of princes and witches, doing the impossible is only the beginning. Hero or not, and now joined by a disgraced ex-knight, a reluctant fairy godmother, and an enigmatic grave witch, and her foul familiar, Mara might finally have the courage to save her sister and topple a throne. Oh, that sounds so good. Maybe it's not like a myth retelling, to be fair, but I will allow the interpretation of this to just be like fairy tale type of stuff. I'm saying if it works, I made this readathon. It works, but also if people want to come for me, fine. I'm still reading The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, which is a Korean folktale retelling. So the next movie, it's A Whisper of the Heart, which involves a lot of music. So one of the prompts is to read a book that features music, which I'll be reading The Violin Conspiracy for, which is about a man whose beloved violin is randomly stolen one day, and there's a whole mysterious conspiracy behind why would somebody take this violin, and what is the purpose behind all this, and it's this thrilling mystery. That other prompts, there's a book about books, so I'll be reading Thank You for Listening, which is a new audiobook that's coming out, which is about an audiobook narrator. She was an actress, but then she went through an accident, and now she ends up, instead of acting, she does audiobook acting, so it's voice acting, and she meets this guy who is this very famed, very well-loved, like, narrator, and he ends up being the partner for this audiobook thing, and I assume it's gonna be like a smutty audiobook where they have to like basically like Ice Planet barbarians like talk to each other in this way. So I'm excited to read that. Then the last prompt for Whisper of the Heart is a different format. So I know these are all like physical books that I just showed you over here, but I also have another physical book, which is Silver in the Wood. And I figured that this might work just because it's a short little novella book, and honestly, I don't really read that much physically. I've been really trying to read more physically, but I do still tend to absorb a lot of my media through audiobooks. So I'm excited to force myself to read physically more this month, because I think I've just been able to finally carve out some time with some vacation coming up that I can finally read physically, including the short little book, which seems very interesting. It's another one that's like maybe a dark fairy tale-ish type of thing. There's a wild man who lives in the deep quiet of Green Hollow, and he listens to the wood. Tobias, tethered to the forest, does not dwell on his past life, but he lives a perfectly unremarkable existence with his cottage, his cat, and his dryads. When Green Hollow Hall acquires a handsome, intensely curious new owner in Henry Silver, everything changes. Old secrets better left buried are dug up, and Tobias is forced to reckon with his troubled past, both the green magic of the woods and the dark things that rest in its heart. For Nausicaa, I'm going to be reading the book Strong Female Protagonist for the prompt Strong Woman Protagonist. I'm reading this, which is a graphic novel by Brennan Lee Mulligan and Molly Ostertag. I've recently become a very big fan of Brennan from Dimension 20 and College Humor and stuff like that in the last couple of months, and it's very cool. And I'm excited to read this book. It's about a young woman who has superpowers, and she is fighting crime, and then at one point she hears this thing through like the mind control, I think, of the bad guy, who basically reveals this much bigger conspiracy to her, and she's like, oh my god, I gotta quit being a superhero because there's just actually worse problems out there that I have to go fix. So I'm very interested to see like how all of this comes together. I'm excited to consume more content from one of my favorite creators. For the sci-fi prompt, I'm going to be reading Watchmen, which I'm also very excited about. It's a graphic novel, and this is following, or I guess actually the original story of Watchmen, which is a very famous superhero, super comic story about these superheroes who are not really like great. They're very morally gray, or sometimes just downright not good people. I watched the TV show for Watchmen some time ago, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really cool. There were so many interesting elements about it, and I just wanted more. And what better place to get more than the source material? So I'm very excited to pick this up, see what it's all about from a different perspective, because I think there may be more in this book that the show did not really show us. So I'm excited about it. Next up is the prompt for graphic novel or manga, which I think a lot of the things I've already shown will work for, like Spy Family Persepolis or Watchmen. So I'm going to move right along from the Nausicaa prompts into the Grave of the Firefly prompts. The first one for this is a sad book. I'm going to be reading Jade Legacy, as I already mentioned. A lot of people are crying in the Discord about this book already, so I think maybe this one will be pretty sad. And I guess that's going to be my answer for this prompt, because I do not want to put myself through more misery if I can avoid it. Jade Legacy, that is it. Second prompt is a book that features siblings. Definitely would also still work for Jade Legacy. Also going to be trying to read Sundial, which works with the sibling prompt, as it follows a family where the mother is dealing with these two young girls, one of which is aligned with her mother, and then a child who's more aligned with the father, and they tend to definitely have a lot of problems. There's something maybe vaguely supernatural going on at the same time. The last prompt for the Grave of the Fireflies movie is to read a historical fiction. So I'll be reading Until the Last of Me by Sylvain Neuvel. As folks know, Sylvain Neuvel is one of my favorite authors of all time. He wrote my favorite book, which is Sleeping Giants, and I am very excited to read more of his books. And Until the Last of Me is the follow-up after the first book in the Take Them to the Stars trilogy that I read a little while ago, sometime last year, and this is continuing on their story. This is about a lineage of women who can only have 3 generations existing at any given time, and even then, only for so long until the older generation dies out. And it's essentially about this long line of women who have been influencing history here and there without letting themselves be known. It's very highly well-researched, and it's very, very cool. It took place during the, space race in the first book, and so this book is now following events that happened after that with the protagonists, and what's gonna come next. Next movie is When Marnie Was There, and for the Far From Home setting prompt, I'm gonna be reading Walking to Aldebaran. Can't think of a farther than home place than space. So Walking to Aldebaran is by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and he wrote about this guy who was picked for a special space mission, and then I think he basically got stranded out in space, and he is stuck wandering the caves and trying to find something vaguely familiar, vaguely human, to familiarize himself with and feel that maybe he isn't so alone. And hopefully maybe also hitch a ride back home. I assume that's also what he wants. For strong family bond, and for water, again, that still works with Girl Fell Beneath the Seat, so I'm going to be reading that. And then for the next movie, which is Porco Rosso, I'm going to be reading just Spy Family for everything, because Spy Family actually works for all of the prompts. Spy Family, I'm pretty sure, has a dog in the family, which is the first prompt, features animals. The second prompt is Found Family. It's literally like a spy and an assassin and I think like an esper or something, and they all have to pretend to be a family, but then they're like, oh my god, wait, this is super cute, and then they decide we should chill together and be a found family, which is very fun. And it's supposed to be really funny too, which is the third prompt. It's to be a humorous book. So I think this is going to fulfill all those prompts for me. I'm definitely trying to double up very hard on this readathon because I do not want to overwhelm myself and burn out or anything like that. And also that I can keep watching Dimension 20, which is really what I want to do. For the coming of age prompt for Only Yesterday, I'm going to be reading Ophelia After All, which is about a young Cuban-American woman who is trying to figure out who she really is and discover if maybe she is queer, and she isn't as boy crazy as she's always been known to be by her whole circle of friends and family, and what that would mean, that whole identity revolution almost that you have when you realize that you maybe aren't exactly the same person that you always were your whole entire life as you grow up. I've heard, again, so many amazing things about this book, and I am very, very, very interested to see if it lives up to the hype as this really highly anticipated YA debut. I think it's going to be very good based on everything that I've heard. Here's the one prompt that I don't know what to do with, and it's the Friends to Lovers prompt. I feel like I could easily just look up a book and stick it here, but I have so many books here that are already on the TBR, so if anybody knows if any of the books I'm mentioning here are a Friends to Lovers book, let me know so I can black out the bingo board. If not, I will have to leave that spot empty, which is very unfulfilling, but I can live with it. It's okay. Last prompt for Only Yesterday is to read an underrated book, and for this I'm going to be reading How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur, who wrote The Good Place, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. This is exploring morality and ethics through these characters' stories. It is a wonderful, wonderful series. I want to say almost nothing else about it, but it is essentially about a woman who is sent to heaven, and then she finds out, oops, I was accidentally sent to heaven. I definitely don't belong here in the good place because I was a bad person. And she kind of has to go through these antics of like hiding it, of who she really is, but then also maybe she can actually become a good person because she's paired with a philosophy professor who is trying to help her to become a good person. So there's a lot of very cool things about it. It is so awesome. Please don't spoil the show for yourself if you've never watched it, but I highly recommend it. I love it so much. Oh my god. It's one of my favorite things ever. This is a book that is narrated by Michael Schur as well as a whole bunch of the cast. So it's like a big fangirl moment for me to be able to read this book, which I got as an advanced listener copy some time ago from Libro FM. And I'm very hyped for it, even though other people aren't really talking about it that much. I'm very excited about it, okay? So the last movie for this round of the Studio Ghibli Readathon is The Secret World of Arrietty. The first prompt for that is to read a short book. So Silver in the Wood, very, very short. You can barely even see it on camera anymore, so definitely it's going to work for that. For the magical realism prompt, I figured that the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your house would work for that, because this is definitely a case where there's like magical-ish stuff, but it's taken at face value. I know this isn't exactly like it's our world exactly, but it's kind of like treated as such a normal thing that I think it still fits into the realm of magical realism. And lastly, the last prompt is to read a book which was adapted to TV or movie. It's Spy Family again. So that's what I'm going to be reading. This whole readathon is happening throughout all of August, so hopefully I'll have time to read all of these different things. I think it's going to be awesome. We're going to be also streaming the movies for the Studio Ghibli Readathon, and there are a lot of these movies that I personally haven't seen yet. I think it's going to be fun, and hopefully this video maybe helped you choose a few books for the readathon as well. If you want some more recommendations, definitely head over to the Discord, because some people are talking about their TBRs there, or they're giving out book recs over there, so it is an awesome place to go hang out, meet the people, and it's also where we stream all the movies. series. So go check it out. I hope you'll join us for the Studio Ghibli readathon. Lighting has dramatically changed in my house, so I have to go film this part of the video over here. But I forgot to say that there is a book club book I also have to read this month for Fantasy Series Book Club. We are not only finishing up the Greenbone saga, but we are also going to be starting a new series, which is The Diviners, which finally won the poll in the Discord. Oh my god. Thank you. There's a Discord poll that we do every couple of months after we finish up a series and we're getting ready to read the last book in a series, so that way people can vote and tell us what they want to read for the next series read along. So The Diviners by Libba Bray won after many, many, many months of it coming in second for a few other choices. We were finally reading that. So let me read to you the description of The Diviners, and this is going to be our first book in the series, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the series for the rest of the year for Fantasy Series. Something dark and evil has awakened. Evie O'Neill has been exiled from her boring old hometown and shipped off to the bustling streets of New York City, and she is positively ecstatic. It's 1926 and New York is filled with speakeasies, Ziegfeld girls, and rakish pickpockets. The only catch is that she has to live with her uncle, Will, and his unhealthy obsession with the occult. Evie worries her uncle will discover her darkest secret, a supernatural power that has only brought her trouble so far. But when the police find a murdered girl branded with a cryptic symbol, and Will is called to the scene, Evie realizes her gift could help catch a serial killer. As Evie jumps headlong into a dance with a murderer, other stories unfold in the city that never sleeps. A young man named Memphis is caught between two worlds. A chorus girl named Theta is running from her past. A student named Jericho is hiding a shocking secret. And unknown to all, something dark and evil has awakened. Okay, so that's gonna be our book. I totally just threw my phone. Don't even worry about it. That is gonna be our book pick for this upcoming series read along that's happening for the rest of the year for the Fantasy Series Book Club. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please join the Discord for the Fantasy Series Book Club, where you'll be able to vote next time, and also you'll be able to just discuss the books with us, which we always love to do with you. We have discussion channels in the Discord, and then we also announce when the big reading live shows are going to be to discuss the books. I don't think I have any other last minute books that I forgot to talk about, so take it away, other Rachel. If you are reading any of these books, or you've read any of them and you're like, these are so good, please tell me. I'd love to hear from you. And that is it from me. I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and I'll see you next time. Bye!